The housing market in the United States is ridiculous, to say the least. Have you thought about why we're in this situation? Hi, my name is JJ. I'm a retired CPA. My channel is about personal finance, retirement, and sometimes food. I do like to cook. Now, I like real estate. It has always been my interest. I read articles. I was a small-time real estate investor. I've always lived in my own home in the past 30 years or so. I am just as upset about the real estate market here in the United States as many of you who are looking for affordable housing, thinking of buying a home. And I don't even know where to begin, but I do want to offer something or some thoughts that you may have not considered. I think the housing crisis is not all driven by higher interest rate. There is a great story about housing shortage. So it depends on where you do your research. We're either short of 5 million units or 6 million units or X number of million units. There's a housing shortage here in the United States. What I don't understand is that our population hasn't grown tremendously. Now, I understand there are illegal immigrants recently, but those people, they're not buying homes. And there's the decrease of birth rates, there's less people enrolling for college. So I feel the population count isn't that much greater that will create a housing supply and demand crisis. So here are a few things that I want you to think about, maybe do some research. And I don't know if any of us can do something about it, but there might be something to be done. Number one, I think, is the zoning laws. Those are controlled by your local township, counties, or cities. I read recently that 75% of the land reserved here in the United States are zoned for single-family housing. Now, it is a tradition for Americans to buy a single-family home because that is the American dream. But when you are out of money, out of option, maybe the zoning laws need to be revised to allow building of townhomes or condos. Maybe the young people especially may need to think about buying a smaller unit as a starter home, condos or townhomes, for example. There's not a whole lot of new build for row homes or condos, as far as I know. I could be wrong. So I think zoning laws is a bit of outdated. And those are controlled by your local government. So if you pay attention to your local zoning laws, and if there is an opportunity to reform, I would think that gave the builder some incentive to build more densely. But there are also government policies that affect the supply of housing. There are cities who require a new build to reserve X number % of your new build to be set aside for low income. Sometimes the economic calculation for the developers isn't favorable to them, so they just don't want to comply with the local laws. Now, I know the laws like this are very necessary because the housing is very unaffordable, but are you forcing the private company to bear the burden of providing housing for low income or make it affordable, or is it a government responsibility? I'm not sure what the answer is, but I understand there are developers who tend not to invest in cities or localities where such requirement is pretty high. Take California or San Francisco as an example. Now, a third factor that I want you to think about is the exponential growth of short-term rentals, the Airbnbs and all those places. How many units are taken out of the family home market or single family home market and used as short-term rentals? Do you know the answer? You can research it. It depends on which article you're reading. It could be 2 million units. At least that's per my research. Simply put, that there are investors who have money that they buy up single family home or family homes. Let's put it that way, family homes, and for the sole purpose of a short-term rental because they can generate higher returns. 2 million units or however million units, there's a large number of short-term rental units that you wouldn't see 10 or 20 years ago. That creates housing shortage. If we're short of 5 million units in total in the United States and there are 2 million in short-term rental market, and you can do the math, right? So that creates a supply side of the story. Lastly, I want you to think about is a corporate ownership of family properties or single family properties. You know, there are venture capital firm who are huge, Blackstone and something like that, that they bought up a lot of properties in the last recession back in 2007, 2008, where all those foreclosures, they bought up a lot of properties. There could be 600,000 units or 700,000 units are bought up by institutional investors for the purpose of turning them into rental properties. So that's, let's just call it a 600,000 units are out of the circulation of family homes. So short-term rental, institutional investors, they would take up almost 3 million units of family homes that would have been on the market being bought and sold maybe 15 years ago. So any market is a supply and demand. Housing is so. There's supply, there's demand. The supply side, I feel there are 2 or potentially 3 million units are out of the circulation because of short-term rental and also institutional investors. Now, I read today that in Spain, you know, the over-tourism is becoming an issue for housing affordability for that country, and many of the cities are beginning to disallow short-term rentals because they wanted to evaluate whether the short-term rental has affected the housing affordability issue. And here in the United States, I do believe the increased short-term rental has created the supply side of pressure on the housing market. Plus, it is the COVID-19, the higher interest rate, all those governmental policies. And on top of all, my favorite is the Trump tax reform in 2017. They took away the itemized deduction option for over 90% of Americans. So your mortgage interest and your real estate taxes are no longer deductible on your personal tax return. So there is no incentive. There is incentive for being a homeowner, but from a governmental policy perspective, it feels like the federal government doesn't want you to own a home because they took away that tax benefit made available for homeowners, because at one time they encourage us to become homeowners. So you can see the government policy at federal and local level do affect the housing market that you may have not thought about. So if your city council are thinking of short-term rental regulations on those, I would encourage you to read up on it, especially if you're in a tourist-heavy area like Colorado, to really think of what their policy is and how is it going to affect your local real estate market. All right, so that's my 2 cents, and let me know what you think, and hopefully you like this video and subscribe to my channel so we can share more similar topics. All right, you have a great day. Bye-bye.